Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for checking the video out today. We are talking about the upcoming PlayStation Showcase. Yes, I know, the thing that MBG seemingly cannot stop talking about, but I have a good reason for actually discussing this today. It's not just wishful thinking, I promise you. We just got the state of play that happened yesterday, 45 minutes. A lot of people left very, very disappointed. So naturally, people are wondering, is this it? Is this all Sony is going to have to show? And I really can't blame anybody for asking this, because something that stuck out like a sore thumb during Sony's State of Play presentation yesterday is that there was zero first-party presence. Not a single announcement from a single PlayStation studio. And it's kind of strange, right? We know that Spider-Man's coming at the end of this year. We did get Wolverine announced back in 2021. We know that there's a Last of Us multiplayer game coming, but outside of that, there's really not a whole lot that we know about Sony's first-party studios. But we have a credible insider giving us an update on what's going on with the PlayStation Showcase. And so this is once again coming from Jeff Grubb. Jeff Grubb is the one who on February 10th came out and said, hey, Sony is planning to do what he called a low-key State of Play at the end of February. And he was 100% correct. He hit the nail on the head. And this is why I'm paying even more attention to what he's saying now about the showcase, because he clearly has some source that knows what's going on internally at Sony when it comes to their upcoming shows. And so what he did is he kind of came out after the State of Play and gave everybody an update on what's going on with the showcase, because on February 10th, not only did Jeff Grubb reveal that there's going to be a State of Play at the end of this month, he then said that it's going to be followed up by a showcase. So naturally, people are wondering, okay, well, the State of Play happened, and yes, it was very low-key, if we'll continue to use that term. But now people want to know what's going on with this showcase. Is it actually happening? Well, I'm going to read a direct quote that comes from his latest show, where he lets us know what to expect and what's going on with this PlayStation Showcase. So first, he talks about the State of Play, basically explaining why it was so disappointing. So he says, quote, I understand what these State of Plays are. They are an obligation. They are Sony meeting the obligations to their co-marketing partners. I'm going to make a video about this week, I think, where I just say, what are these State of Plays really? Why do these keep happening? And the answer is, it's simple. They tell developers and publishers they want to make a co-marketing deal with, we will put out a State of Play. And that's going to count as so much money toward what we consider a co-marketing deal. So that's Jeff Grubb explaining that basically that State of Play we got yesterday, the reason why it was so low-key is and disappointing to many is because it was basically a marketing obligation. And that actually makes a lot of sense when you consider that 15 minutes of that State of Play was dedicated towards a third-party multi-platform game, that being, the upcoming Rocksteady game. But the second quote here is the one we really want to pay attention to, because he talks about the PlayStation Showcase. Quote, so they have to do them, even if Sony itself is saving its own actual good stuff for something else, which is what's happening here. They're saving the good stuff for the PlayStation Showcase that's going to happen before E3. It was supposed to happen last fall, but they kept pushing it back because their developers weren't ready. But now that those developers are ready, they should have a massive show that really sets up the second phase of the PlayStation 5. So there's a lot to be excited about. It's just this State of Play was never going to be that, end quote. Okay, so this is, the meat and potatoes of the quote here, I'd say, and what he's revealing. He is doubling down on the fact that, yes, Sony is doing a showcase, and this is not something that apparently is, up in the air. This is something that is absolutely going to happen, and something really interesting that he points out here, there's a couple interesting things, but he mentions how a showcase was planned last fall, but Sony couldn't make it happen. Now, he says it's because developers weren't ready to show what they were working on yet. And this is interesting because we were all under the impression that the reason why Sony maybe didn't have a show was because of the ongoing Activision Blizzard deal But I've talked in the past and even just yesterday about how, it seems strange to me that Sony's willing to come out here and market the PS5 so aggressively, still announce, multiple third-party exclusive deals, and talk about how well they're doing in their earnings. It's interesting that they're willing to do this during this whole Activision Blizzard deal, but they're afraid to, have a showcase. It kind of didn't add up. So, if we believe what Jeff Grubb is saying here, apparently it's simply because the development teams weren't ready to show off what they had. And that, at the end of the day, if you go with Occam's razor, that would make the most sense, right? That's just the most logical, simplest answer. But I also want to pay attention to what he says here, how, this showcase should be massive, which, let's be honest, this is the longest amount of time that Sony has ever went without a proper first-party show of some kind. It's been about a year and a half. It's crazy to think. And, some people have given up entirely just believing that Sony's not doing these shows anymore, but that doesn't make sense either. Sony literally has to do these shows for the product, that being the PS5, that's pretty expensive to a lot of people that they're trying to sell you. So yes, they have to have these showcases. They have to get people excited. And he also mentions that this showcase is essentially going to set up the second phase of the PS5. And this, to me, is very interesting because of how much sense it actually makes when we look at, where the PS5 was at launch, how it was set up, the games that were revealed, and the way Sony kind of, continued to roll them out and market them and, maybe hold back on certain reveals during this time. But we've kind of reached that point where, we've reached the end of, I guess, what we could call phase one, where now all that's pretty much left is Spider-Man 2. And beyond that, we really don't know much, So I've said it time and time again, Sony has more studios than they've ever had in the past. They have more projects in the works at a, given time than they've ever had in the past. It's pretty crazy that we haven't really had any major first-party announcements. And what it does do is it makes me firmly believe that when Sony does actually have their next proper show, it's going to be one for the ages. And you combine that with the fact that 2023 as well as 2024 and maybe even 2025, the next couple years of the PS5, this is basically the peak of this console cycle. This is where Sony plans to sell the most amount of PS5s. So basically what we have here is the perfect storm brewing for what could be a just colossal showcase where we see a lot of PS5 games from, most importantly, PlayStation Studios announced and revealed. And, I don't want to hype people up, obviously. That's just my speculation. That's what I think. Frankly, I think it's obvious at this point, but I don't want to encourage anybody to run with this necessarily and just assume that, oh man, yeah, we're getting a showcase next week or next month. We don't know. That's the big question mark here. I do believe Jeff Grubb. I mean, look, let's give credit where credit is due. We don't really hear too much from, supposed insiders anymore about Sony's internal plans when it comes to shows. And so many insiders have been dead wrong time and time again. So I don't blame anybody for just being like, why? Why would I even remotely believe this? But, giving credit where it's due here, Jeff Grubb was literally the only person coming out saying, hey, Sony's doing a state of play in February, and they're going to do a showcase after. He's 1-0 right now when it comes to PlayStation in 2023. He was 100% correct about the state of play, so I'm inclined to believe that whoever he's talking to about this upcoming showcase, that he's going to be correct about this as well. And if not, then then that's it. Then I guess we have nobody we can listen to anymore about PlayStation. But I'm thinking that this is going to be correct because, as I said, it just makes a lot of sense. And so I figured this would be a good time to kind of make this video. A lot of people, as I said, are coming off yesterday's state of play feeling incredibly disappointed. Some people just straight up frustrated. PS5 owners feeling like, when's Sony going to start talking about their studios and their exclusives, right? At least from their first party teams. And yeah, I think that's totally fair at this point. So there you go. That's the update I have for you on the PlayStation Showcase. I'll be sure to, make another video and let you guys know if we get any more information. But right now, basically to sum it up, what we're hearing is this state of play we got yesterday was a marketing obligation and it was never going to be anything exciting. And Sony is in fact planning a very big, exciting, massive show to basically kick off phase 2 of the PlayStation 5 and its games. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts about it down in the comments below. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it or found it informative. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.